Hello, good morning, and happy Tuesday, June 24th. You are tuned in to the Ted Manila Information Show, TMI Show for short, because we bring you way too much information. I am Manila Chan. That over there is Ted Rawl. We are live Monday through Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern Time, so please be sure to like and follow the show, meaning subscribe to it wherever you're consuming this content, especially those of you on YouTube. We are seeing from the numbers, Ted, that we get like tens of thousands of views on our shorts and our video clips, but they're not hitting subscribe, which is not cool.
No, that's mean. I mean, if you do that, you support the genocide in Gaza. If you do that, you are against the ceasefire between Israel and Iran. If you do that, you're in favor of a higher national debt. So subscribe.
Also, if they don't subscribe, that must mean that they are supporters of Jeffrey Epstein.
And in fact, had sex with Jeffrey Epstein willingly
Probably?
and happily and enjoyed it.
Probably. So you better hit subscribe.
Got to do it.
That's how this works.
Got to do it.
You have to
you
do
don't
it.
like puppies or kittens,
right?
Or bunnies or anything.
Yeah,
babies.
like that. So obviously, asking you nicely to hit the subscribe button isn't working. So we're just going to guilt you into it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
that's how this works. Because seriously, we are so close to finally being monetized on YouTube. And granted, we launched the show on Rumble,
finally.
and yes, and we launched the show on Rumble. And they have been so gracious and wonderful to us to put us in the creators program, and we now need your help on YouTube. And all you have to do, and it's free, all you have to do is hit the button to subscribe to the show. So that way we can finally be monetized. Remember, this is Ted and I were put out of a job in the waning months of the Biden administration. So
because
here we are.
People didn't subscribe.
Or senile Joe decided that we were Russian propagandists and that we shouldn't be able to afford our mortgages or eat.
Honestly, Manila, this is a different topic for a different day. But if the president is insane, we discover that he's insane, shouldn't everything that he did just be abolished?
Fair point, especially post-debate when we found out that he was senile and
mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
Everything he did thereafter.
This was post-senility.
This happened in September of 2024, several months into...
I mean, I would argue the entire term was senility.
I would too.
But we know for sure, because he dropped out.
Sure.
Yeah, it's true. He dropped out months after he dropped out because he was too much of a dingus to be president or run again. So he was
all the sanctions against our employer.
I mean, honestly, like if you're old and senile and you sign a will, you know, the judge will say, "Oh, he was old and senile, and he didn't know what he was doing. Wasn't of sound mind and body."
Off to probate you go.
Yeah, exactly.
Off to probate. So this should be the same thing. But anyway, in lieu of that, because I don't see this changing anytime soon, you can actually help us out by hitting the subscribe button.
Only 98 people away on YouTube. You guys could literally close the gap today.
Right now.
Because we get more than that on YouTube.
Yeah, I can see the numbers right now. There are several hundred people watching right now. So you can please help us.
Yeah, quit watching you like peeping toms.
That's true. It's like peeping toms, damn it. Okay, so
we'll watch, and if you don't want to commit, fine, but you know,
at least
just
hit the phone.
You're the one who's you're the ones who you're
guilting and berating this morning.
Okay, that's the deal.
We're guilting and berating this morning on the TMI show. We are again dangerously close to getting monetized on YouTube, so we could really use your help. So on today's show,
every day.
On today's show, we're going to talk about the follow-up to this supposed ceasefire deal and what this whole volley was about this weekend. And I've got some thoughts. I've got some opinions on that, Ted. Of course, today is another election day. I don't know how this is working for you guys in New York City because you guys are doing the ranked choice voting and you have like a book as thick as Moby Dick about how
That's true.
voting.
Oh yeah, here it is. Here's my ginormous voter guide.
Put it to the side profile so we can see how.
I mean, it's literally
It's a magazine.
Yeah, it's a magazine. It's about 64 pages long. It also comes in. Robbie will be very pleased to see that it also comes in Spanish.
Voting directions.
Robbie's native language before he came
voting
here
directions.
from Guatemala.
Voting directions that are as thick as a magazine.
Guess who? And it's a 50-50 toss-up between Andrew Cuomo and
and a commie
That's
and a
right.
socialist.
That's exactly
and
right.
a socialist. So we'll talk about that because I have a lot of questions myself, Ted. Because
Do you know who this is? Manila, big points if you know who this is.
No, I do not know.
I bet some of the rumblers know.
Okay, we'll solicit the viewers.
Mm-hmm.
If you know who that little mini bust is that Ted was holding up,
I will give you.
We'll give you a shout out.
I will give you whoever can first identify that. I will give one of my books to. Not the most recent one, but I'll send you one of my books signed.
Oh, one of the books. Okay, cool.
Okay, all right.
Signed.
Also, I'm only allowing 5 guesses though. So after 5 guesses, if no one gets it right, no one gets the book. Sorry.
Okay. Robbie, we had a viewer question. Can you post that up, which we'll get to at the end of the show, but make sure it's in the chat so we can address it from a longtime listener from our Sputnik days, Ted. Ricky out there in Texas had a question for us, so we'll address that later in the show. Then, of course, we'll talk about some of the Israeli forces, doing what Israeli IDF soldiers do, mowing down civilians. For fun. We'll hit on that. And then we'll talk about
number 1 was Vladimir Lenin. That's not correct.
Oh. I can't make out who that is.
I'll put him
and then
again.
our last fun Tuesday conversation are all of these idiots, because it's the summer, right? And people are like traveling and people are going to museums everywhere around the world and especially here in DC, because we got a lot of museums. People are just fucking shit up everywhere they go.
It's not Dwight
whether
Eisenhower.
It's deliberate.
Strike 2. 3 more to go.
Are you giving 3 strikes to each person?
5 strikes. No, 5 strikes total.
Total.
So yeah.
So as a group, what a socialist way to do this, Ted.
Yeah, I'm doing like group punishment. Like, like when one kid was bad in class and the teacher would be like, "You're all staying for detention."
Yes.
Collective punishment. It's illegal. It's illegal under international law, but okay in American public schools.
Okay. All right. So we're on guess number 2 or 3? 2. Okay. You all have
Lenin,
3 more chances.
Eisenhower. It's not those.
Okay, not those. Okay, so we'll see. Okay, so that's what we're going to talk about is for a fun conversation at the end of the show is that we're going to look at. I'm going to guess, Ted, that they're mostly dumb, like idiot Americans abroad that are fucking up all of them, all the art, breaking shit everywhere they go. I can almost guarantee, I can almost bet that the culprits are all idiot American tourists.
I would have guessed that there's got to be some Australians involved because when you travel overseas, the only people louder, drunker, ruder, and dumber than Americans are Aussies.
That's pretty true. And I have Aussie family, so I know.
And I like Aussies. I'm not saying this is just an observation. Great. It's not even like a.
But that's true.
It's not even like, I hate you. It's like, no, let's hang and drink and be rude.
Oh, they're awesome.
Yeah.
But when they drink, they're the only ones that are louder and more obnoxious than Americans. That's true. Yeah. But we're just even sober as American people. Sober, we are loud and obnoxious and break shit everywhere we go. So that'll be the fun topic. All right. So with that, let's
fun, Manila. They're all fun.
Yeah. Genocide is super fun. Let's get into the news.
That's the most fun. Okay, Iranians and Israelis celebrated a tentative return to peace despite reports from both sides of early violations of a ceasefire announced last night by Donald Trump. Israeli Defense Minister Israel Katz. By the way, isn't it kind of strange that your first name is the first name of your country? Like, should I be America Rawl said Tuesday, said that he had ordered the military to mount new strikes on targets in Tehran in response to what he claimed was an Iranian violation of the ceasefire. Iran, however, said, no, we didn't launch any missiles at all. And they said the Israelis had continued, however, to attack for an hour and a half beyond the ceasefire beginning. Historically, Israel has tended to break all the ceasefires, but who knows what happened here. Trump had announced the ceasefire on Truth Social, saying, all caps, the ceasefire is now in effect. Please do not violate it. Trump ripped into both Iran and Israel for breaking it just hours after it was supposed to start, raging, this is a quote, that both don't know what the fuck they're doing. I think they both violated it, the president said as he left Joint Base Andrews. He said this on television, by the way. We basically have two countries that have been fighting so long and so hard that they don't know what the fuck they're doing. Do you understand? I don't know that an American president has ever deliberately dropped an F-bomb on television before.
I got to say, that was kind of amazing.
Could be wrong. Yeah, I like it. I don't have a problem with it. It's not like I don't use it, but I mean, and it's kind of silly that, people curse in private, but not in public. Also, it's an indication that Trump might be smarter than we think, because studies have shown that people who curse are smarter than people who don't curse.
Good point.
So this might be his effort to try to bolster his IQ now that he's 79. Anyway, he made clear he was not happy with Israel and had to get Israel to calm down, saying that it was all because of just one rocket that the Iranians had fired. I'm not happy with them. I'm not happy with Iran either, he said. I'm going to see if I can stop it, okay? He separately pleaded on Truth Social, Israel, do not drop those bombs. If you do it, it's a major violation. Bring your pilots home now. It's kind of amazing. When Donald Trump is the sane person in the room, wow. It was not immediately clear what impact would follow. Katz said in a statement that he had ordered Israel's military to continue high-intensity operations targeting regime assets and terror infrastructure in Tehran in light of what he said was Iran's violation by firing missiles. Iran's Qatam al-Anbiya Central Military HQ, that's like the Pentagon there, said that the Israelis hit the Iranians up until 9 o'clock in the morning local time. That's 90 minutes after the ceasefire was supposed to take effect. But both sides did confirm that they were all in. Iran said that they would keep their hands on the trigger to respond to any act of aggression by the enemy. Can't blame them. In the last reported strikes before the ceasefire, missiles killed 4 people in the southern Israeli city of Beersheba. That, according to the ambulance service down there. The Iranians said that 9 people, including a nuclear scientist, were killed in an airstrike against an apartment building in northern Iran. Global stock markets went up. Oil prices went down after the ceasefire announcement in the hope that this means a beginning of the end of the war 2 days after the U.S. struck Iranian nuclear facilities with over a dozen 30,000-pound bunker buster bombs. So that's...
But still, Ted, we don't have any real evidence that it was successful. I just want to point that out.
No, we don't. In fact, there's considerable evidence to the contrary. We don't even know.
On the word, Ted, on the word of Pete
Fordo is the one that's buried deep under the mountain. We don't even really know if the dozen bombs that were dropped there penetrated all the way down to the facility or not. And the Iranians aren't saying. I don't blame them for not saying. Yes, maybe no. Who knows?
Well, we should also point out that
don't forget the trucks.
Well, the trucks, but they use like several dozens of Tomahawk missiles, which really aren't going to do anything.
No, they're not going to do anything.
But the neighboring countries, specifically, I think I read India. India had their scientists out with their weather vanes and whatever. I don't know how they do this, but they were looking to see if there was any nuclear fallout,
radiation
wafting their way. Because remember, after Chernobyl, there was nuclear waste wafting over in the air all the way that they could detect. They detected it all the way in the Netherlands. I mean, way out there.
It went all the way across Europe. Cancer rates went way up and spiked, and the cloud went around the Earth a number of times before ultimately dissipating.
So if there were, it literally scientists were able to pick up from Chernobyl whole continents away, like small amounts of nuclear waste in the air. So if there was a successful attack, as Trump calls it, there's literally no evidence yet. They haven't shown us, any aerial video. They haven't shown us satellite imagery.
There is public satellite imagery available that shows a hole, but so what?
Right. But that doesn't mean anything. You could show me a
several
hole of
days
anything.
Look, the Iranians. Look, you and I knew this attack was coming, and so did the Iranians. They watch TV. They watch the TMI show, right, religiously. In fact, it is a fatwa in Iran not to watch the TMI show. And it's like and they knew it was coming. So there's satellite imagery from 2-3 days before the attack of dozens of semi-trucks lined up. Now, unless they were there delivering some cool mid-century modern furniture to the Fordo people, they wanted to trick it out and make it the best nuclear research facility in all of the Middle East. Or more likely, they were taking all their uranium and other shit out of there in preparation for the attack.
So,
one or the other.
To me, there's a dearth of actual evidence that this bombing of them was successful. And then conversely, now you have the Iranians firing off, and to me, it could be firing off at the mouth for all it matters, firing off missiles into Kuwait and Qatar and whatever, and those are all intercepted midair. So, but at the same time, apparently, all the sites that were due to be hit with missiles, with Iranian missiles, they were all evacuated as well, because the Iranians notified the United States that they were going to be firing stuff off. And in my opinion, I think that was more for domestic consumption, Ted. I think to show, to at least show their own people, their own public, like, hey, we're not just going to, take this lying down from the United States. So we're going to fire off some of our stuff too. A big waste and pissing contest, if you ask me. A big waste of their taxpayer money, our taxpayer money. Ours is, from most accounts, they say it could be as high as $500 million. This little pissing contest that I was going to say George W. Bush did, Donald Trump, but yeah, Freudian slip. That was almost a Freudian slip. It was just a pissing contest, Ted. Like, Trump wanted to be like, oh, we bombed these places. To what effect? Other than to show that you're in cahoots with Netanyahu, who had been planning this for a year, and then he roped Donald Trump in. So both of these things are, both countries, Iran doing what they did yesterday, that was also, in response, that was, I think, for their domestic consumption only, because there was no net effect. There was no, if they meant it, they wouldn't have provided warning, and they would have, they are capable, is my point, of having massive impact, massive attack impact on American sites, American people. They could do that, but they didn't. And there was not one hair on any American's head anywhere in the world was harmed by the Iranian missile attack yesterday.
That's true. Can't argue with that.
Those are facts.
Them be facts. All right, so let's get to the crux of the matter here. Here in New York City, New Yorkers are headed to the polls in the Democratic primary because this is such a Democratic city. The mayor will, whoever wins the primary today, will almost certainly become the mayor of the city of New York, taking office January 1st of next year. And he or she, most likely a he, will either be Mr. Cuomo or Mr. Mamdani. So I should point out that early voting has been taking place now for about a week. I voted last week. So here's what's going on. And this is going to have major implications. I know we're always talking about like little races, like, oh, this school board race in central Kentucky will show us the direction of the presidential. Like, not really. But This really will have a major impact on national Democratic politics because the Democratic Party is in such disarray following the defeat last year to Trump. So here are the two candidates. On the one side, you have the progressive candidate, Zohran Mamdani, 33 years old, self-identified Democratic Socialist in the Bernie AOC mold. Then there's former Governor Andrew Cuomo, former governor of New York, who had to resign back in 2021 after more than a dozen women accused him of grabbing their tuchuses. He was the clear frontrunner early in the year, but in recent weeks, Mamdani has really surged, and this is a total toss-up race today. Voters here, we have ranked choice voting, so you can vote for up to 5 candidates in order of preference. So a new poll released yesterday showed Mamdani actually winning the New York City Democratic primary after multiple rounds of counting. The way it works is that basically he would not win in the first round, but as the candidates on the lower end are eliminated, he would ultimately cross in the 8th round and would win according to their model. Early voting began June 14th. The city said that 380,000 people had voted by Sunday. That's more than twice as many who voted in the last election. New Yorkers under the age of 40 were 40% of all early voters. Mamdani has been far more popular than Cuomo among young people. A survey last week found that 60% of people under 34 voted for Mamdani first, as opposed to just 10% for Cuomo. Mamdani's big promises are a rent freeze, which is being characterized as radical. Okay, my rent's going up from $4,900 to $5,100 a month. Jeez. I don't think that a freeze is radical. You could cut my rent in half, and it would still be too much. And he wants to make the buses free citywide, which might sound radical to some people, but you have to understand, in New York City, the buses are more of a supplementary transit system. The subways are the main way that people get around. And there's
DC has one. We have free
transfers between buses and subways. So if you abolished bus fares, you'd only be abolishing the fare for people who only ride the bus, right? But most people who take the bus are transferring to or from a subway, so they're not paying anyway for the bus. And there's already sort of a history of free transportation. The Staten Island Ferry has been free for a number of years, and it works fine. And then the other thing to understand is if there's a huge paid infrastructure to collecting fares. Like if the New York City subway fare you were paying without subsidies from the U.S. Department of Transportation, it would be $25 per fare instead of $2.90, which is what it is. So they're just collecting basically 10% of the fare at the turnstiles, but you have to hire security guards to go and collect the money. You have a money train that goes around and collects all the money from the various stations, machines, and turnstile clerks. There's just a lot involved of accounting for this money. It may cost more money to collect the money than it does. Not to mention you have to maintain the turnstiles, and you have to have cops to guard the turnstiles and make sure people are paying their fare. And and when
the
people
jumpers,
pay their fare,
the turnstile jumpers.
Yeah, you have to have judges who adjudicate all this, and so it's expensive. And it's like for $2.90, maybe we don't really care.
Maybe it's not worth it.
60% of the people who ride the bus cheat and don't pay the fare anyway. So it's like, so I just want to provide all that background.
DC does offer this this local commuter thing called I think they call it like the red bus, because it's literally like a small little red bus that just goes around the city to just within the major points, like right around downtown.
It's like a loop type thing.
Yeah, it's like a loop, and then it kind of it picks you up more and drops you off.
That's nothing like New York City has. New York City
ours
has
is small.
Hundreds of bus lines that go all over
we have
boroughs.
We have a real bus line too, but I'm talking about the free one. It kind of picks you up and dumps you off more or less a block or two real close to the entrances to the metro. So people can actually get in and around, and and get to those neighborhoods. For some people that live there, like when I live downtown, you could theoretically just get around town to the grocery store or whatever, rather than have to go all the way to the metro, get underground, and get out. And it actually worked really well. And it took donations, but it's free. Now, question to you, Ted. What happened to this guy? I thought Mayor Adams was seeking re-election.
Adams is about as popular as syphilis. So he dropped out of the Democratic primary, even though he's the incumbent Democratic mayor. He still plans to run for re-election, but as an independent in the general election. So whoever prevails today will be either former Governor Cuomo or Mr. Mamdani. And that person will then go off in November to face the Republican candidate Curtis Sliwa and Mayor Adams. But it's not believed.
Sliwa is the Hell's Angels guy?
No, the Guardian Angels. The Hell's Angels is the bike gang. The Guardian Angels is the vigilante organization. That would be cool. So it's really fascinating. There's been a blizzard of campaigning here, scaremongering about Mr. Mamdani. Mr. Mamdani wasn't doing very well until the scaremongering, and there's obviously an analogy here to what
is he Iranian?
He is, I believe.
Is he
he's
Arab?
Indian. No, he's Indian. He's Indian Muslim.
Indian.
That's right.
So, those are very scary.
Very scary. But the scaremongering there has been some race baiting, but most of it's been about he's a terrible democratic socialist who won't know how to run the city. He's 33 years old. That is young to be.
Really young.
He wouldn't be the youngest. There was another boy mayor about 100 years ago, but he only lasted like a year or two before Tammany Hall got rid of him. But that's a whole long historical lesson. Look, the thing here is Mamdani if the way he was attacked by corporatists and big money interests like Michael Bloomberg, who's funding Cuomo's campaign, and the New York Times, which the New York Times stopped endorsing local candidates in 2021, but they broke their rule by issuing an anti-endorsement of Mamdani. They were like, vote for anyone but Mamdani. Now, I read that and I was like, oh my God, the moneyed interests who control the editorial page of the New York Times are really scared of him. So I'm all in, because I'm, like the Trump voters in 2016 and subsequently, I want to send a big middle finger to the city establishment.
Right.
I hate them. I hate the real estate interests. I hate all the people who are in charge of the city who are making it miserable. New Yorkers are in a bad mood. They are very pissed off at the way the city is being mismanaged by Mayor Adams, and also the corruption that's been involved. The way that the city's falling apart in the subways are dangerous as hell. People are getting pushed in front of the subways. Every car has a smelly, psychotic homeless person, raging and ranting and talking to themselves and threatening people.
Part of the charm of a big city.
It's gotten worse and worse and worse. Graffiti is back. Stores are closed. People are pissed. And it's like, if it's going to be the 1970s Lou Reed days, it had better be cool, and we better have clubs, and we better have cheap rent. None of those things is true. We've just got fucking Sephora and and Costco, right? So fuck that. So we're paying these crazy rents, and we don't have anything more interesting than you have if you fucking live in like Dayton, Ohio, where I grew up. So it's like where the rent's a lot cheaper, and you have to deal with smelly homeless people. So it's going to be really interesting. This is going to come down to the wire. If I'm going to say Cuomo, it would have been a cakewalk if they had just if Cuomo had just said a few more liberal things, and then basically no negative campaigning about the terror of the socialists. Like if they had just not said that, the socialism is a feature, Manila.
This kid is openly socialist.
He's a democratic socialist like Bernie. He's not a socialist like I am.
Not like a pure,
I want to control. Purist. He doesn't want to seize the means of production for the proletariat the way I do.
I understood him because I've seen the negative campaigns.
He's AOC style.
From that.
Yeah.
Oh, I took
He's just
from
a
that
progressive.
he
In
was an
1972,
actual socialist and
yeah,
running on
in 1972, he would have just been McGovern.
a Democrat.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So here's my thing with you guys in New York City. So Governor Cuomo, right? Before we found out that he was a total perv and, you know, like upskirting women and up blousing his workers, his staffers, before we knew he was a total perv, he was a darling across America for COVID. And in spite of how horrible, and I was a critic of his during COVID in real time, saying what he's doing is not like, how could you be locking out grandma and grandpa and locking down the city? I've never seen Times Square empty before in my life except in these dystopian movies, right? But that was a real thing. The way he handled it, I thought, if anything, if you guys were going to remove him from official office, it should have been for his handling of COVID. But somehow
Well, don't
COVID,
forget all the grandmothers that he killed.
that's what I mean. Like he locked all the sick ones in with the well ones, and you know, like all these little
hundreds
old bubbies.
of beloved old ladies and old
He
gentlemen
killed
are dead because of him.
He killed bubbies in all these little nursing home facilities
He sure did.
all across New York City and upstate too, obviously. But at the end of the day, his daddy was governor. His brother ran the number one show on CNN at the time, had his brother on, you know, little bro had big bro on almost nightly for at some points it was like comic relief. It was very strange. So at the end of the day, the name recognition is there. Do you and you showed us that book. Show us the book again, the voter book, the voter guide. At the end of the day, name recognition is there. And
but let me tell you one thing that is a secret, though. Let me tell you one big secret. So I voted a couple days ago, Manila, and you know, I think they flip a coin to see who gets to get their name at the top. Mamdani won the coin flip. He's at the top of the ballot. So let me just tell you.
That's how you get your name there?
Yeah. So
no.
So the point is that's huge. When you've got like 8, 9 candidates, there's some pretty silly ones.
Oh no, I saw. I mean, look, we have an image of all the people. This is all the people that are on the Democratic
well, like for
ticket.
example, there's Paperboy Love Prince.
3,
Okay,
6, 9 people.
So listen,
Paperboy Love Prince.
Yeah, so here are the candidates for mayor, right?
What is wrong with New York
New Yorkers have to choose between the following. So Adrian E. Adams, Dr. Selma Bartholomew, never heard of her, Michael A. Blake, Cuomo, Corinne Fisher, Dr. Brandon Gillespie. Man, we have more doctors. Brad Lander, he's the outgoing comptroller. Deirdre Levy, Mamdani, Zelnor Myrie, who name is backwards, whose name's supposed to be Myrie Zelnor, and we should tell them. Paperboy Love Prince, I will tell you, I was tempted to vote for him.
That's
but
a name?
Yeah. Jessica Ramos, Scott Stringer, also kind of a famous New York politician, Whitney Tilson, Natalie Williams. So you get all these names, right? And you have to choose up to 5. I mean, you know, most New Yorkers don't know who all these people are, but being on the top, I mean, that's got to help. I mean, honestly, that's an advantage. I mean,
sure.
a lot of people are just going to be like, guy at number 1, I put at number 1.
That's the point, right? Is that all these people outside of Cuomo are nobodies, even within their own party,
except for Scott Stringer and Lander.
Lander, right? I recognized Lander's name,
and of course, Paperboy Love Prince.
That name, see, I would have done the ranked choice voting just because I was like, that name's amazing, and I'm gonna tick that box just because I got the 4 that I like.
People who are gonna do that. I guarantee New Yorkers have a good sense of humor.
Just this, I'm just gonna. I want somebody with that crazy invented name. Yes, like
I want that person to be mayor today. Mayor Love Prince announced. That'd be awesome. Every day I'd have to hear that. It would make me smile every single day.
This brings to question a lot of. Maybe it's too inside baseball, and maybe even you don't know. But seriously, a coin flip And that's how like the DNC in New York City, or like
I think
whoever
it's
runs
the board of elections. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
that's how they run.
Well,
That's
a
how
lot
they
of stuff is
decide who.
decided by coin flip.
Coin flip. I mean, it's
No,
like the
all over
Super
the
Bowl.
country.
You're flipping a coin.
100%. Yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm. They do that all over the place. When there's a tie vote in a lot of jurisdictions, it's a coin flip. Like, let's say there's a
my
little
God.
school board election or something. They have a public coin flip.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
I mean, okay. Well,
yeah.
well,
This is
my
how
my question mainly was, do you even think it's feasible, despite we know Americans, and New York City is no different, have a very, very, very short memory, a memory of a gnat. Have New Yorkers forgotten what an asshole Cuomo was as governor, and the way he handled COVID, and the way he was
New
upskirting
Yorkers
and
have
uplousing?
they don't have memories quite as long as Angelinos, but they do have long memories. And so Angelinos
But it's name brand.
never forget a grudge. It could be 40 years.
No,
In New York, though, they remember
name brand though.
They remember a grudge up to about 5 to 10 years. They remember this one. So here's the thing. About a year and a half ago or 2 years, you probably remember whenever I talked about the mayor's race upcoming at the time. I said it's going to be Cuomo. And people were like, no way. And I was like, because he's got nothing else to do. He's going to pull the Jerry Brown thing. So here's the thing. People a year and a half ago, when Cuomo's candidacy bubbled up after I was predicting it, my theory, and probably his funder's theory of the case, was we want a mean son of a bitch to come into New York City and crack some heads and restore law and order to the streets. Okay, now the thing is, that was the theory of the case a year and a half ago. The thing is, things have changed. It's aside from everything I've already said, A, crime is down. It's not as dangerous as it was a year and a half ago. B, people are used to the crime as it is. It's the new normal. They're not really pissed off about having to, the way they were a year and a half ago, about having to go to, allocate an extra half hour to unlock the toothpaste at CVS.
Nobody should acclimate to high levels of crime. That's insane.
Yeah, and we should have more than 2 real political parties. But the point is, in the real world where we live psychologically, the politics of it are that people have acclimated. So the case for Cuomo is no longer as powerful. Meanwhile, the rents had been frozen under COVID restrictions.
Right.
And also many people left the city. About 750,000 people left New York City during COVID. So the rents fell, or they remained frozen. But the landlords ever since have been trying to make up for all the money they feel like they lost. So with rents soaring at a time of high inflation, now it's entirely, what's pissing off New Yorkers even more than the shitty state of the streets is the shitty state of their pocketbooks. And they're really pissed. And so enter the socialist with the rent freeze idea. And no one thinks that that's radical, except the real estate interests think that's radical. A rent freeze in a city where, a guy like me pays over $5,000 a month is not a radical idea. So it's like, so I think that's why Mamdani stands a chance here. And
look at the numbers there.
I still think Cuomo's probably going to win. But I think it's Cuomo's to lose. It would be an upset, but it could happen.
How does this ranked choice voting work? I mean, it's showing here round 8. What does that mean? Round 8.
So there are 8 candidates on the ballot. Some of the ones that I mentioned dropped out before the ballots were printed. So the way it works is actually, that might not be true. There might be like 11 or whatever. But the way ranked choice voting works is they tally all the votes from the first round, right? Whoever comes in last in that round is snipped. So let's say there's 10 candidates. Whoever comes in 10th in round 1 loses. Now,
then you're off.
So then all the people who ranked that person first, those votes, the system looks at who did they vote for second or third or fourth and so on. And it reallocates their votes. So let's say, for example, Manila, you voted for the person who comes in 10th. Like you voted for Clovis, but Clovis comes in last because he's a cat. and there's a lot of philophobia. So but let's say you're like, after I voted for Clovis, my second choice was
Paperboy Lover.
I voted for Paperboy Love Prince. So, and third choice was I voted for Ted. So Clovis is gone, but then Paperboy Love Prince now gets your next vote.
Okay.
And right, do you see how that works? Now let's say in the next round, Paperboy Love Prince comes in 9th, last. He's abolished.
Right.
Then your vote is reallocated to me
as my third choice,
and so on. And so basically, it's a process of elimination.
Do New Yorkers have to go to the polls that many times?
No, not at all. It's
because it's just one big ballot, and you're marking 1, 2, 3.
Yeah. It's it's like basically it's literally. I mean, for people who can see this is how it works.
Oh, I see.
You basically put in like it's like that.
Okay.
So
I mean, I think it's only you guys, and I think like Portland, Oregon, maybe.
There's a few other places that do it.
Doing ranked choice.
I'm personally, up until now, I have not been a big fan of this because it gave us Eric Adams, who, what's the word? Sucks ass. But I mean, hey, this may end up giving us Mamdani. So the thinking here was like this came out of basically the 2016 election on the Democratic side, where a lot of Democrats said, well, I wasn't too sure about Bernie, but if it had a choice to put him second, and if I can't have Hillary, I would have been okay with Bernie. So that's where this sort of started. And there was some thinking
ranked choice voting gave us in LA Karen Bass.
Right. Who's named after a noble fish. So there is that.
That is true. But yeah, which is ironic given how poorly she handled the water issues for the fire problem.
She's basically the Eric Adams. Well, she's not corrupt. I don't think she's smart enough to be as corrupt as
No. That's not true. Are you kidding? Los Angeles? Mayor of Los Angeles? Like, there's corruption there. Are you kidding?
It's baked in, but I don't think she's especially corrupt in the way that Adams.
I don't know. I don't think she's any more corrupt than any other mayor before her.
No, you can't. Yeah.
But
she's like whatever.
She's been known to already, given that she's a brand newly minted mayor, she's been known to give favorable contracts to her people, whoever she's connected to, and those people haven't delivered for my peeps back home in Los Angeles. So but to your point, Ted, the reason New York City is a big weather vane, Los Angeles and California also a big weather vane, which is why I say it is going to be President Newsom. We're going to get Governor Newsom out there. We're going to get new Governor Harris in California.
Let's talk about what happens. So if Cuomo wins, it's the Empire Strikes Back. The corporatists prevail.
Mm-hmm.
All is right and good with the world, and Ted's rent goes to $5,300. Okay.
Yikes.
But if Mamdani wins, and by the way, I'm being sarcastic about all being right with the world. I voted for Mamdani. I did not rank Cuomo at all. But you don't have to. You don't have to vote.
So you can vote just for one person,
or 2 or 3. Yeah. So I only voted for 3. So
because there are tricky ways for these ballots to say, oh, Ted's ballot is disqualified. He didn't fill in all the bubbles.
That's true. Mm-hmm. Well, they better not disqualify my ballot, or I'll put Clovis on top of it. But anyway, the thing is, if Mamdani wins, this will send shockwaves through the Democratic establishment. It will indicate. I mean, the corporatists will say, well, there are a bunch of leftists up there in New York City. Sure, but when's the last time we actually elected one? Like, not really, right? So it would be
never.
Absolutely shocking. It would say, like, this is, and I will say this tomorrow morning. Well, we're going to know on July 1st, really. But I would say when the results come out on like July 1st-ish, I'm going to say, if Mamdani wins, I'm going to say, look, this Mamdani didn't win. He ran a great campaign, really did. He knocked on 1 million doors, or at least tried to, out of 7.5 million people.
Very retail politics.
Very retail. That's how AOC won her district in Queens. So very smart, and he's a charming candidate, a lot of charisma. But this would be about Cuomo having lost. Cuomo, it's his to lose. He's got the name, he's got the experience. A lot of people voting for the experience. If he blew it, I would say it's because he didn't work hard enough for it, and because he was too far to the right.
Well, it's like Hillary Clinton, the heir apparent, and people don't like you, but your name is there, and your name is Clinton, your name is Cuomo.
At least Cuomo's a real New Yorker, which Hillary Clinton was not when she ran for Senate.
Right. That's true. Very true. All right. I think we have a word from
it's not so bad to run for mayor in a state where your father has a bridge named after him.
Oh, does he really?
Oh, yeah. The former Tappan Zee Bridge crossing the Hudson River north of New York City is the Mario Cuomo Bridge.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay. Well, I mean, I know they're native New Yorkers, but how native?
I mean, of course, the thing is, man, the apple rolled away far from the tree that was the stout oak that was Mario Cuomo. And the two rancid crab apples that were Chris and Andrew, who were obviously not raised well by their father, basically rolled into the gutter and into the sewage system and out to Fresh Kills landfill.
Producer Robbie says we have to do a word from our sponsor. Producer Robbie, can you drop that into the chat so we can hit the sponsor message? Who's it from today? Who's it from today? And
there we go.
Okay.
All right.
There it is.
This sponsorship is from Rumble itself, one that is incredibly important to the survival of the company. When Rumble first started in 2013, they built a platform for the small creator. They didn't censor or have biases. They were fair and treated all creators equally. No one thought platforms would censor political conversation or censor opinions on COVID, but they did. Facebook admitted they felt a pressure from the Biden and Harris administration. Rumble did not. They held the line. They are attacked daily for giving us a voice to talk to you. They're attacked in corporate media. They're attacked by governments like France. They're attacked from brand advertisers who refuse to work with them. Corporate America is fighting to remove speech. Rumble is fighting to keep it. Rumble won't survive. With brand advertisers, they don't get much of it. Watching our show on Rumble is the most they can do to ask from you. But if you really believe in this fight and you have the means, one major way you can help Rumble survive is by joining Rumble Premium. Join the community that believes in the First Amendment and believes in our human right to free speech. Rumble is offering $10 off with the promo code STUDIO when you purchase an annual subscription. Go to rumble.com/premium. And please use the promo code STUDIO. Like I said, if you have the means and believe in the cause, now is the time to join Rumble Premium. If you don't have the means, we're just happy if you watch us here on Rumble.
There you are. Thank you for that, Rumble.
All right, let's move on.
We got a couple more Oh, we have the viewer question that we forgot to get to on Friday.
I have the email up. Which one are you talking about?
From Ricky. I'll go ahead and read. I have it too.
Okay, so you have it. Good, perfect.
Okay, so from Ricky Buzz. Ricky says, "Good morning, Rob, Manila, and Ted. Great show. I wanted to ask you guys, honestly, with the events going on with Israel and Iran, in my opinion, it feels hard to differentiate people's opinion and what's fact, given the fact that we're now locked into a 24/7 news cycle through our phones. I feel like political commentary sometimes gets lost in the opinion of the person bringing up the information. For example, like a Jimmy Dore or a Kyle Kalinske, barf. How do we filter out the noise of what's being reported? Feels like everyone on social media, X, Twitch, YouTube, etc., are all experts all of a sudden. Happy Friday. So this was on Friday. So we owe Ricky. If you guys send us an inbox, right, Ted? I'm going to put the email in there.
Please put it up.
Be like Ricky and send us a question and we will get to it.
Mm-hmm.
Right there. TMI show question at yahoo.com. So I don't know. Do you have an opinion? I mean, Kyle Kalinske, barf. So he's married to Crystal Ball and he's, for whatever reason, done like a retro year 2000 Y2K look and bleached his hair. So he's wearing like the Sugar Ray look.
Oh, wow. Or the Eminem look.
Or no, he's not. No, because it's not short like that. It's like spiky and messy like Sugar Ray. So all he needs now is like the puka shell necklace, and like back to Y2K. But anyway, Kyle Kalinske for example, is super, super DNC. He and Crystal Ball are not, if you're looking for a populist left or progressive or whatever, I know they like to fashion themselves as some, but really I feel like people like them, again, they fashion themselves as progressives or as left. But I think they, more often than not, on my scale, they fall more just slightly left of center. They're like DNC slightly to the left of center. Jimmy Dore, I think, has been spot on for years. And Jimmy Dore, of course, is a comedian. But for years, especially since COVID, Jimmy Dore's, I think, been very good. But I think you can't. How do you filter out the noise? Or how do you know what's noise and what's fact? Unfortunately, we live in a 24/7 information cycle, right? There's supposedly more information available to you now than ever before. And that is true on its face. Unfortunately, now you have to actually do more research than you would have, let's say, 70 years ago. I don't know. Because we could do a whole show about this, like a media critique about just when the whole news industry fell off the tracks, and since when has it been trustworthy or not trustworthy. There's arguments to be made, for example, from trying to find the book. I have it somewhere. Well, the Noam Chomsky's book, which is somewhere. I don't know. Manufacturing Consent. I just wanted to put it up on screen because they did a anniversary version of it, and I have it somewhere, I think, unless somebody stole it off my shelf. But anyway, Noam Chomsky's argument is that for all of time in American history, U.S. press has really been fucked up and untrustworthy and has had bias since its inception. Many would say the Hearst family, who are like, a publishing and supposed news family from, I don't know, the Spanish-American War era, they've been biased and coercive of how Americans consume media and full of shit, basically, is what I'm saying. So unfortunately, you have to do your own research because it's only gotten worse in terms of media trustworthiness. You certainly ain't going to find it on CNN or MSNBC or Fox. You probably have a better chance of listening to or watching any of these random Rumble shows to find, if not whole truths, at least nuggets and kernels of truth. Because for the most part, you watch MSNBC or CNN or one of these big, big cable networks. I can tell you from my vast years of experience working in television, that is all controlled information that you're listening to on social or on cable. You are better off listening to social media. And that's why they do not like social media, the big networks. They do not like the decentralization of information. And granted, there are some crazy shows out there, Ricky. And Ricky's young. I've communicated with Ricky before, so I know Ricky's a young Padawan. But sadly, there is no place I could point you to say you're not going to get noise. At least Ted and I will tell you what's going on, but we'll tell you it's our opinion. We're not trying to say this is a fact. I tell you that this is my opinion. Maybe on my old show, I only gave you facts and I kept my opinions out of it, Ted. Nobody ever knew before I got on Sputnik. Nobody ever knew my positions on things. And that's great. That was by design because I was supposed to be a neutral journalist. That was by design. And here, TMI, I'm all tinfoil hat, baby. Just get it all. But at least I'm honest about it. And sometimes I say I support it with facts and I bring the receipts. And other times I just tell you it's my opinion. And sometimes it's bluster and I'm angry at the establishment and the status quo. And I just say it. but at least I tell you that I'm saying it. I don't purport it to be factual and this is CNN, the most trusted name in news. I don't know. I don't do that. So, Ricky, I don't know. That's my opinion. Ted, how do you answer that?
I'm going to. I mean, so here's the thing. The answer is you can't, Ricky. Avoid the noise. The noise is there, and sort of like when you're in a crowded restaurant and you're trying to talk to the person that you're there with, your ears can learn to filter out the noise and just focus on the person who you're trying to listen to. Well, similarly, you can intellectually, as you grow older, consume as much media as you can, corporate, alternative, left, centrist, right, American, foreign, print, broadcast, as much as you can. Also read lots of history. And your brain will start to associate and start to recognize patterns. For example, I noticed that, Thomas Friedman and William Crystal are almost always warmongers and are almost always wrong. And turned out to be, they predictably will call for foreign interventionism in places where it's not going to work out. And then you remember later. It's sort of like, how can you tell if someone's a good film critic? Well, you can't until you read them a lot. You read someone's film criticism for a long time. And then you go see the movies and you're like, that critic was always right. And I kind of agree with her, or vice versa. And it's pattern recognition. I guess my point is, it's like, when you ask your parents, how will I know that I've fallen in love? And they say, you'll just know. You will just know. You're going to start to recognize after a while who the bullshitters are and who the people are who are trying to tell you the truth. One big tell is people who admit when they fucked up. I'm not ideologically aligned with him. The other day, that big interview between Tucker Carlson and Ted Cruz, however, Ted Cruz pointed out that in the Iraq War, Tucker had been in favor of it. Tucker not only said, you're absolutely right, I was wrong, but he said, no, I promoted it. I promoted it.
He owned it.
Yeah, he owned it. Now, to me, and he said, you won't always get, like, I forget what he said, but something about, like, you won't always get accuracy from me, but you'll always get sincerity. I don't think accuracy is the word he used. But my point is that, like, when someone, like, for example, just now I said, I'm not sure that's the word he used. That's me expressing uncertainty. I look for people who express uncertainty, people who will come back and say, oh, by the way, I checked this thing that I thought, but actually the capital of Burkina Faso is Ouagadougou. It's like, I look for that. People who are able to, change their minds. And so, but the point is, there's no way to avoid it. This is the world we live in. It's not unlike living in the Soviet Union, where Soviet citizens had to read Pravda and Izvestia and try there was truth in there, but you had to sort of read between the lines and figure it out. And Soviet citizens became good at it. Our media is extremely, as Manila said, highly controlled, and it's there's a lot of propaganda. Beware when you see certain phrases repeated all the time. That's a tell also. Like, for example, Russia's full-scale war in Ukraine.
That one.
That's like, but the term is not used elsewhere, for example.
Talking points.
Yeah. So whenever you hear that kind of thing in news, you should be very concerned. NPR, which, strives really hard with its tone to sound neutral, uses that phrase, for example.
Or they tried to put you to sleep by speaking like this.
Well, that's the neutral tone I'm talking about. So So just that kind of, or for example, when something's not proven, but it's presented as if it's proven. For example, on NPR this morning, Iran's nuclear weapons program. There's no evidence that there is a nuclear weapons program or that there ever was. So, like, maybe you could say, now if you said Iran's nuclear program, that's still a little too vague for me.
But the key word,
nuclear
weapons.
Power program, or I think nuclear research program, if I were a producer or an
Is
editor
fair.
is what I would tell my people to use.
Yeah.
So, but nuclear program isn't really wrong, but it's leaving some
Right.
stuff out. So, I mean, you'll see, you'll tell. It's just, you just consume a lot of news and you'll be able to tell. That's all.
Yeah. Yeah. And especially if you watch the media personalities long enough, you do get a sense of who they are as people, and whether you get the vibe if they seem trustworthy to you or they seem douchey or whatever, and you'll know that, oh, I relate a lot to Ted, or I relate a lot to Manila, and because of that, by extension, then you might be able to find their opinions and thoughts and read of the situation as more trustworthy, because you can relate, you find them relatable. So I think like Ted said, you just have to consume a lot of media for many years before you figure out who's what, and whose theories have proved out over time, and who's been bullshit and has never given you a mea culpa, which is everybody apparently except Tucker Carlson.
Yes. Well, there's others. By the way, Manila, we've got to keep going because in 27 minutes, we're Robbie and I are recording a preview.
Yes, and I got to take Mom to the doctors.
With Rumble.
However, so we should jump to our fun bullshit story.
Yeah, let's do that. Okay, so I'll just get to
art idiots.
A tourist who was trying to get a selfie of himself in front of an 18th century portrait at the Uffizi Galleries in Florence, which I've been to, tripped and left a hole in the artwork. The dude stumbled on the platform intended to keep visitors at a distance. I guess the platform didn't keep him at a distance from the portrait of Ferdinando de' Medici, the Grand Duke of Tuscany. This portrait was produced somewhere in the last 5 years of the 1600s by the Italian Baroque painter Anton Domenico Gabbiani. The painting, included in the exhibit Florence and Europe, Arts of the 18th Century at the Uffizi, has since been removed to be repaired. The museum said that the damage is relatively minor. However, the exhibit's closed until July 2nd. Simone Verde, director of the Uffizi, said in a statement, the problem of visitors coming to museums to make memes or take selfies for social media is rampant. We will set very precise limits, preventing behavior that is not compatible with the sense of our institutions and respect for cultural heritage. She added the tourist, who was immediately identified, will be prosecuted. Museum goers looking for the perfect selfie or snapshot and accidentally damaging the art is an increasing problem. Another incident occurred at the Palazzo Maffei in Verona. A visitor damaged a crystal-studded work called Van Gogh's Chair, but it's not actually Van Gogh's chair. It's produced in 2006, 2007 by Nicola Bola. CCTV footage caught a dude sitting on the artwork chair and posing for a picture before the seat buckled under his fat ass. The museum said that the incident was reported to the cops. Also in April, a painting by Mark Rothko was damaged by a kid during an unguarded moment at the Dutch Museum Boljmans van Beuningen. The abstract painting from 1960, gray, orange on maroon, number 8, was scratched by the kid visiting the Rotterdam Gallery. Dutch newspaper Algemeen Dagblad estimated that the painting had been worth, before the kid got to it, about up to 50 million euros. So that's kind of a problem.
Okay, so the kid.
But by the way,
I don't know how
I know the solution here.
I don't know how little
cameras, no phones, no cameras in museums, and you don't need one because, they're famous paintings for all gallery shows. Yeah, you can Google the picture, look at it anytime you want, or go to the museum gift shop and buy the program or the memorial or book that came out.
But then here's these activists. Then you had these weather activists. Now Ted and I, obviously, we have our place in our positions, right, on like global warming and whatever. I'm less hair on fire than Ted, but I don't approve of this. Like, what is this supposed to do? How is this helping stop global warming? You fucking threw cans of soup at a Van Gogh.
Now, in fairness here, this Van Gogh was not affected because there was a glass cover over the painting. Okay, so I want to be clear that the painting wasn't harmed. Look, these climate activists who have been doing these actions, which I guess haven't really happened recently. There was a little spate of them during the pandemic. They were meant to draw attention to climate change under the doctrine that no one's paying attention. It's certainly true that no one's paying attention. That is true. And something needs to be done.
But
and the question then becomes for activists, what's the right way to get attention?
I wouldn't say it's this. I feel like this brings you the wrong kind of attention, and it makes people scornful and hateful of your cause. You're like,
well, here's
now
my
you
problem.
just become a
I
spectacle.
don't see the relationship between art and climate change. There isn't one politically. I mean, it's not like, it's not like, oh, people be going to museums and looking at sunflowers rather than fighting climate change.
To save the real sunflowers?
That's not the issue. Better to vandalize gas-guzzling cars. That would be more direct.
Right,
burning down an SUV dealership. I get that.
Right. So fine. If you're going to go, go to the plant, right, and bust up their electrical grid so they can't produce any more gas-guzzling whatever, that makes sense. I can connect those dots. But throwing cans of soup at a Van Gogh,
it didn't work, honestly. Like nobody's like, oh, thank God those art kids got us, made us pay attention to climate change.
It's just
however, honestly, okay, so if we had some CEOs of say large energy concerns who got like a visit from a Luigi type character,
Ted.
That could make a difference.
Luigi brought a lot of eyes, obviously, to the healthcare concerns.
It was directly related. I mean,
it was very obvious dot to resistance.
Do not do this. Do not ever do this.
But no one should be killing people,
or
this either.
Even look really at this evil idiot. People should never be killified.
Look at this idiot. He jumped down 18 feet to go into the terracotta.
Oh, no.
China's terracotta.
Is that in Xi'an or is that somewhere else?
I'm not sure.
Because the big one is in Xi'an, but they lend them out sometimes.
Yeah, I don't know if this is in China or if these were loaned out to a museum somewhere.
He broke them?
He broke a couple of them. This is all recent.
What was
There's
this about?
A whole spate of these idiots.
Was it a political act or was it a...
No. He wanted to take a selfie.
What is that true? Did he oh my God, what a maniac.
The tourist jumped in, as according to eyewitnesses. He didn't fall over. He jumped in to get...
So he's a maniac. Look, art has also been attacked by psychotic people over the years. The Mona Lisa, if memory serves, was slashed one time by a madman when it was at the Louvre. I got to see it before this happened. When I was 10, my mom and I went, and you could walk right up to it and look have the length of your nose away from it and look at the brushstrokes. I couldn't
get that close.
Now it's behind a big glass thing,
by the time I saw it in 2008 or 9 thereabouts, she was behind a glass enclosure, and from what I heard, that even that was a fake. That's what I heard. I don't.
Yeah, there's rumors about that, but
I don't know.
But the point is, art has been attacked by by lunatics over the years. Many times it's happened. I think the David, some guy went after it with a hammer one time. I could be mistaken about that. Or something like it. But anyway, that's lunacy, and I don't think we need to.
But that's different.
Politicize lunacy.
These are idiots trying to take selfies for their Instagram or their TikTok. And
like I said, the solution here is, think about the people who, to me, this is about, honestly, these are just derps. Okay, they're not evil. They're just derps. It reminds me a lot of the people who, in front of the Grand Canyon or Niagara Falls, a little back, a little more back, a little more back, a little more back. So it's the same thing. And so, and the answer in both cases is no photos. Nobody needs a photo of the Grand Canyon. It's the most photographed hole in the ground anywhere. No one needs a photograph. I mean, no one needs a photograph of Niagara Falls. Oh, imagine Niagara Falls, which is photographed, and imagine you're standing in front of it. There you are. I mean, nobody wants to see a picture.
You don't need your own, on the phone, on your phone.
I think I'm going to go further. When I become president, there's going to be a bunch of laws, and one of them is going to be all photography of people just proving that they were in front of an inanimate object will be banned by law. So, look, here's me in front of the Empire State Building.
Oh, they've got a whole thing around.
Why? Why? I mean, what for? It's just, okay, I know you went to the fucking Empire State Building. Good for you. It's like, you just tell people, I went to the Empire State Building. Oh, what does it look like? It looks like the Empire State Building. Because everyone knows what the Empire State Building looks like. You don't need it. And that photo doesn't even prove that you were there. Not that anyone cares that you were there. Perfect. That's actually a cool photo. But
I took that photo before iPhone.
Picture of you in front of it because it doesn't prove anything now with AI. Like I can prove that like I was hanging out with Julius Caesar. I mean, it's stupid.
But see, this was me college age going to New York City for the first time.
I like that picture.
With a real camera.
Mm-hmm.
That's different. I took this picture because it was
it's not you in front of it. Like, okay, I'm going to say something really racist. Like all the Asian people who are like,
I have a selfie
here's a picture,
now,
and the Asian people all standing in front of the White House like this, like
yes,
they look like they're about to be executed. No, it's just.
But this was like a photography class thing, so that's why I took it, and I thought it turned out really good with the shadows and the juxtaposition.
No, it's a very unusual angle. Yeah, so that's why it's cool.
And I got a good grade on it because it was the juxtaposition of how the sunlight was hitting the building and the shorter buildings are darkened, and it was like the year 2000. Ted, come on,
but
it was
moody. Obviously, if there's malice, like I mean, look, whatever. I think this is the thing. There's no reason to allow photography in museums. There's no reason.
Ted's point is right. I mean, barring idiots like this trying to do something awful, it's idiots like this. These are hapless idiots that are trying to take pictures. And I can almost bet you, Ted, that they're American.
Oh, I totally disagree with that. Are you kidding me? Your ethnic brethren are all over it. Everybody.
Those are white people.
The Japanese do. Oh, in terms of sitting on it. Oh, by the way, I do have a personal confession. So when I was like 8, I visited with my mom. We went to the Hall of Mirrors. We went to Versailles, to the palace. And anyway, I decided I was tired, and I decided to have a seat on one of the king's chairs. Now,
but you were 8.
I was 8, and also, frankly, it was a sturdy chair. It had been around for 200 years more, and
oh my God.
And I wasn't
your mom
big,
must have been
fat
mortified.
Fucking American, so yeah.
I know.
I know. Your mom was, and I was skinny for my age, so yeah.
Mortified. Anyway, so that's it for today. Is as we kick off, literally, because this week was the kickoff of summer, like I guess the solstice or whatever, and the days are longer, and people are starting to go out on vacation. I implore you, fellow Americans, please stop embarrassing us around the world. Please don't try to take selfies in front of priceless works of art that are like 500 years old, or in the case of the Chinese terracotta soldier statues, those are like 2,000 years
That's
old.
Heartbreaking, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like, and those are actual historical artifacts, like not necessarily like art per se. I mean, they're historical artifacts. Like, oh my God, just don't. We already have so much. Having lived abroad, Ted, during the Bush years in the Middle East, you have no idea how accountable, me as a little Asian American woman, how accountable the Arabs made me feel for having George W. Bush as president, right? But then Obama wins, And they're, border guards are checking my passport. Oh, American. And then they're, Obama.
Mila, our producer, he's very angry at us. We
need to wrap.
Yeah, we have to. We're
So
going
anyway,
to be taping a fun segment for the Rumble Premium people. It's about the famous, best, most interesting last stands in history. Joining us will be Scott Stantis, and it'll be me, Scott, and Robbie, and Manila's like booking out to hit the MD.
I'm being a good Asian daughter and taking my mom to the doctors.
That's nice. It's very nice. No selfies.
Hey,
no selfies at the doctor's office.
No, they don't allow that.
No.
White people have 401ks. Asian people have children. Think about it. That does it. See you guys tomorrow.
See you tomorrow. Bye.
10 a.m. Eastern. Adios, amigos. Thanks for being here. Bye.